Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's start out with this Q&A, just two voice, defense attorney and the witness. Here we go, starting with the defense. Your son was attending Fairgrove Junior High School? That's right. The first time that he ever had a class with Mr. Vanderment was in the fall? I believe so. What grade was he in at the time? He was in 8th grade. Had you known Mr. Vanderment prior to the time your son was taking his class? No. Had you heard anything about him at all? Not until after my boy was struck. Up until that time, you had never heard anything good or bad about Mr. Vanderment? No. When did you first learn about your son being struck by Mr. Vanderment? It was around the middle of February, more or less. The middle of February, you say? Yes. Was that at your home? Yes, sir, it was. Just how did you learn about it? He told me. Your son told you? Yes, sir. What was the nature of the conversation with your boy when you first learned of the incident? Well, he would come home complaining every day about his legs and about his dizzy spells and about the cramping of his legs and not able to sit down. It was the same thing every day. How long had this been going on? Since September? This was in February when he told me this. About how long had he been complaining of it before you asked him about it? About a week. Prior to that, he had never complained about it. He would complain, but he wouldn't tell me what was the matter with him. Alright, so now let's do some practice with some Q&A practice with our transcript, and we will have both attorneys questioning the defense attorney and the plaintiff attorney. Okay? And we will start with the plaintiff. Okay, here we go. Why did he tell you he was taken to jail? I don't know why he told me. I'll object. It calls for speculation. I kind of understood it the same way she did. Okay, that was very sharp. Did Mr. Majors tell you for what purpose the police took him to jail? Yes. And what did he say? He just said that they thought he was under the influence of something, but they released him that night at the hospital. It wasn't like he was taken to jail. I don't know what kind of an arrest it was. Did he tell you whether or not they drew any kind of blood sample from him when he was taken in? No, he didn't. He didn't mention that one way or the other? No. Did he ever later tell you if they did or not? No. Had you ever driven in the car with Mr. Marsden? Not while he was driving, no. Did you know that Mr. Majors, strike that, did you have reason to believe before the accident occurred, did you have reason to believe that Mr. Majors was not a good driver? Not that he was a good driver, no. Let me ask you this. I can understand why you would not want somebody to drive a car that was in your name, but it seems to me that there was probably some reason that you didn't want Majors driving this car. Can you tell me what that was, if there was a reason? He's asking if there was a reason. If there is, yeah, I do have a reason why. What was the reason? Because I figured he was into drugs and things like that. You've answered. Okay, so you were, strike that. Is it fair to say that you were primarily concerned that perhaps some criminal activity could take place when Mr. Majors was using the vehicle, that maybe somehow you were afraid could be led back to you? Yes, but it had nothing to do with Mr. Majors' ability, as far as you knew at the time, to be a good driver. Can you say that again? Yes, I think we've established that you didn't want Majors using the car that was in your name because you were afraid he might be involved in some sort of criminal activity, right? Right. What I'm also trying to figure out is whether or not you said you didn't know him one way or the other. I think what kind of driver Mr. Majors was. No. Is that correct, isn't it? That's correct. So your reasoning for not wanting Majors to use the vehicle had nothing to do with his ability as a driver, isn't that true? That's true. Okay. Did Majors say anything to you about some cocaine which the police have indicated in their report was found in the vehicle? No. He never mentioned that to you one way or the other? No. Did you ever talk with Mr. Smithton about this accident? That's my client, the plaintiff in this case. No. Did you ever talk to the police about this accident? No. Had you ever known Mr. Majors to have a job? No. Approximately how much in terms of money damages was done to your car, if you know? Objection as to the term your car. I think we've used it pretty consistently as being in her name. Let me ask you this. How much damage in terms of cost of repair or whatnot has been done to that 2006 Toyota? It was totaled. Did Mr. Majors ever tell you where he was going at the time that the accident occurred? No. Is Mr. Bradford still your boyfriend? No. Have you seen Mr. Bradford lately? No. Do you know if Mr. Roberts was injured in this accident? Yes. Was he? From what I could see. Oh, you saw him as well on the day of the accident? Not the day, no. You saw him sometime after the accident? Yeah. And, okay. And he looked to you to be injured from this accident? Uh-huh. Yes. From what reason was Mr. Bradford's license suspended? If you know. I don't know. If you know. I don't know. How did strike that? Did Mr. Majors offer some explanation to you as to how the accident occurred? No. You didn't ask him? Well, yes. I could back that up. I'm sorry. Did he answer you and give you some explanation as to what happened? Yes, he did. Okay. What did he say happened? He said that Mr. Smithton pulled in front of him while he was going down the street. Have you ever gone by any other names other than the last name of Lee? My maiden name. What is your maiden name, or was it? Susan Ann Rempton. Could you spell Rempton? Rempton. That's all the questions I have. I think the record's pretty clear. I just want to ask one question. Okay, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you. That will conclude our Q&A practice.